Good morning. I'm Bob Jacobson, Commissioner of the Minnesota Department of Public Safety. Today, we're going to ask Minnesota's parents to have some tough conversations with their kids. We've talked about sextortion before, criminals convincing victims to send explicit messages of themselves and then threatening to release the images unless the victim complies with their demands. In the past, we've talked about how the criminal is often a sexual predator, trying to get more explicit images or to meet for a sexual encounter. But what we're seeing in Minnesota right now is a significant surge in different kind of sextortion. It's sextortion that isn't about sex, it's straight up blackmail, financial extortion. And their target is most often young boys, anywhere from 10 to 14 to 17 years of age. This crime is happening across the nation right now, including here in Minnesota, and unfortunately, time and time again, the consequences have been devastating. We need to work together to stop it. I'm going to turn it over to BCA Superintendent Drew Evans in a moment to provide some specifics on what we're seeing here in Minnesota and what we're doing about it. But I just want to say that as a grandparent of children this age, I cannot stress enough that while we can and are investigating these crimes and are working to hold criminals accountable, we need parents to help us prevent this crime from happening in the first place. Understand that yes, this crime can happen to your child. Educate your children about the dangers of sharing images and information online, and please make sure that your children know they can come to you if they fall victim to one of those criminals. The victims of these crimes didn't break any laws. They were tricked by a ruthless criminal. And how it happened doesn't matter as much as telling a parent or a trusted adult if it does. We need to work together to stop this crime and prevent any further loss of money, innocence, or lives that may result from it. Thank you. Yeah.
Thanks, Commissioner.
Good. Good morning. I am Drew Evans, and I serve as the Superintendent at the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension. Our predatory crimes agents began receiving tips about Minnesota boys being blackmailed through sextortion schemes a couple of years ago. Since that time, we've learned of hundreds of additional incidents here in Minnesota and more than 3,000 victims nationwide. The crime always follows the same pattern. Most often it's a boy befriended on social media or gaming sites by someone purporting to be a beautiful girl. She convinces him to share explicit image or video of himself that shows his face. Immediately, the blackmailer demands money or gift cards from the victim, threatening to release the explicit images if they don't. If money isn't provided, the threats escalate to threatening to kill the victim or their loved ones. At this point, the threat escalates further to phone calls and extreme pressure to find a way to produce the money. The pressure doesn't let up, and again, some of these victims have been as young as 10 years old. These criminals are opportunists. While boys are the primary target of the crimes, young girls are being targeted too. If the money is never provided, the blackmailer releases the photos on social media. In some cases, they've released photos even after the money is sent. Tragically, these crimes have led to more than a dozen young people committing suicide across the United States in the past year. BCA predatory crimes investigators have determined that the Minnesota cases originated from the countries of Nigeria and the Ivory Coast. While the BCA has statewide jurisdiction and investigates cases that reach to other states and countries, the United States does not have agreements in place that would enable us to pursue criminals in these two countries. We continue to investigate and look for ways to hold these criminals accountable. But this situation makes it even more vital to prevent these crimes from beginning in the first place. I'm a parent as well, and I know that conversations like this are difficult and challenging to have with your young people in your lives, and they're not easy. But we need to educate our children about this type of crime so that they're aware of it, so they can take steps to prevent themselves from happening to them in the first place. These criminals are counting on your children to feel fear and shame. They're counting on our children to be afraid to tell you or another trusted adult, and that's why these conversations are so important to have. And they're counting on Minnesotans not working together with law enforcement to bring this crime to an end. And our commitment is we're going to continue to do that with our law enforcement partners and with all of you in the communities across Minnesota. Let's work together to dry up Minnesota's pool of victims together. We must do it now before more of our young people are victimized by these criminals. Thank you.